It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Monday, Gary, how are you?
Well, I mean, I went through a time warp. I'm thinking to myself, okay, we're back to all the topics. You know, you and I talked about all the serious topics we've been talking about, you know, the topics of substance and everything else. And we talked about, you know, remember 10 years ago what the topics were? And all of a sudden this weekend, they appeared, you know, back again. Time Magazine's Person of the Year. What is a young woman basketball player saying? UFOs. Trump. Let's get rid of daylight saving time. Oh, by the way, let's forget about these topics here. Forget about, you know, the daylight saving time. Let's get back to what we should be talking about, which is no taxes on Social Security. We haven't heard anything about that since the Republicans won, and I'm just a little over 9 months from collecting Social Security. I'm not retiring.
Well, I think you and I are, by the way, very disappointed that we didn't get the award for Person of the Year from Time Mag. You know, because the award ceremony is coming up. They have an award ceremony, don't they? It is an award, right?
Well, I didn't hear that much of a discussion, you know, because Trump came out and said, oh, you know, basically I'm honored to have been. It's like.
Well, and there were a number of lawmakers and people on the right. Congratulations, you've earned it. And it was like, no. It's not an award. It's the person who makes the most news in the year.
That's what we look at as you know. I was shaking my head. I'm like, we keep doing the same stuff. It's like we have access to more information, yet we still have the exact same arguments that don't actually fit what the information is. And Democrats, you know, you had some Democrats furious. I can't believe he's Person of the Year. Well, no, you should want him as Person of the Year, because he got elected and you believe the American public is nuts because this guy is a fascist. So you should agree with the fact that he's Person of the Year, because Person of the Year is not an award. It's the person that makes, you know, affects the world news more than anything. And as we've always said, every year that should be the President of the United States.
Right. Well, it's funny that I did think of that because I thought, well, in that case, it should be Biden. Then I thought, no, wait, actually, this year it should be Trump.
Yeah.
It's because we say every year it should be the sitting president. Well, this year, most definitely it should be Trump and not Biden in that regard.
Or something to do with the presidency.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, if you're an investigative reporter and take down the presidency, you know, that's really has more influence than, you know, really anything. Mm-hmm. And so I laughed about that one. I'm like, oh my gosh, the same. And we've been having that argument since I've been talking about Time Magazine's Person of the Year for as long as there's been Time Magazine Person of the Year. It's been the same argument all the time. Well, you know, it's not an award. And all of a sudden it's back to being an award this year for both Democrats and Republicans.
By the time, you know, we got about halfway through the day, I thought, you know what, forget it. I'm done with the battle. Let him hang it on the wall. I don't care. It's time. By the way, it's Time Magazine. Have they even printed one magazine in the last week? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
well, you know, because here's the thing. You would think that the publication, the media group that is responsible for issuing the Person of the Year, being the world's biggest newsmaker, might actually themselves print some news. But Time Magazine is all but gone. How the hell would they know? It's just like, forget it all. Okay, everybody gets to be whatever they say. Pretend there's no Google for one day. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what a great weekend. Everything went great, by the way. Everything went, still got a little bit of a head cold. When you go through all that stuff and I thought it was allergies. We think it's now a head cold, but that I had. And most of it is gone, but still you probably be able to hear it in my voice a little bit, and my head's like, but the procedure, the medical procedure.
The Christmasoscopy.
The Christmasoscopy. The propofol was good.
All right.
It was good.
All right.
And I couldn't figure out when
I didn't get any of that bad propofol. That's going around. All the kids are trying. Yeah.
And the anesthesiologist, I always ask, by the way, can I take some of this home, the propofol stuff?
Yeah.
They just laugh.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it was that was all good. So it was a great weekend. But when you think about it, the reason that the Democrats, you saw Democrats and liberals, I can't believe he's Time Magazine's, is because is anything going their way right now? Anything?
No.
I mean, every single time you turn, they're freaking out about ABC and the whole George Stephanopoulos.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know why they decided, to settle it for $15 million to go to the Trump presidential library.
Was I the only one that for a moment had forgotten about that whole thing? The suit, the fact that it was, they were still negotiating that. It had been on, I guess maybe on the back burner, but I hadn't been thinking about it in a long time because of all the things that were thrown at Trump.
Well, as you and I have always said, it's when you're a public figure like that, it's hard to sue you. It's very hard to sue the president of the United States. But when you make a comment which is based on a legality, like I can, if I called a public figure
an idiot.
Well, no, if I called them in general a murderer, I might be able to get away with it. But I can't say they've been convicted of murder.
Well, and also there was a specific case that they were
That's what
talking
I mean, yes.
about. Yeah,
right,
this was
right.
a specific case with a specific victim that everybody was aware of, and so they were falsely saying that essentially that he had committed rape in that case. And that's not
and wasn't
the verdict. That's not what happened.
And that's going to get you even with a public figure because of the repetition of the number of times that Stephanopoulos said it concerning the civil suit.
Right.
And but what they were afraid of was the emails.
Yeah.
The deposition the 4-hour deposition that Stephanopoulos was supposed to 4 hours, and then they had discovery, for his emails, the ABC emails with inside the company. Mm-hmm. And so that probably was like, nah, this will come across as this. They figured that paying the $15 million plus the $1 million, I did see that the $1 million for attorney's costs has to be paid for by Stephanopoulos himself. I saw somebody say that over the weekend. I'm like, is that, I don't know if that's correct or not, but his legal fees of $1 million
right
has to be paid, and then $15 million going to his presidential library.
So it's gonna live on forever.
The major funder of starting the Trump presidential librry is ABC. Oh my God! It's like I can't even, this kind of stuff, and the left is just freaking out over it. It's like we can't get a win on anything.
And with Trump, normally you wouldn't be able to in his own library. When it happens, you won't be able to get him to mention the liberal, activist media. But knowing how this went down, he's probably more prone to actually put up a plaque thanks to ABC News for this part of the library. Like embedded into the floor on the stairs,
Wow.
Like the Walk of Fame.
The fake news section, donations, right at the top. Trump Library fake news section. Thank you to the donations from ABC News.
The ABC News fake news wing of his library. I love that. They get the title to the news wing, the fake news wing.
Oh, that's right. You got to.
Oh my gosh!
Right, it's just not the Trump Library fake news wing.
Yeah,
it's the ABC.
ABC fake news wing. Oh my gosh! Oh, please, somebody talk him into doing that. Please, somebody talk him into doing that. Oh my gosh! Oh, I would visit that so much. I would be at his library so much.
And I mean, we're just going over all the news because we've been off for 3 days. But I mean, just everything just popping into my mind, and then all of a sudden it's like, Mayorkas says that we have nothing to fear. The drone border is secure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
exactly.
Wait a minute. What the hell's going on? Mayorkas is in charge of the drones, too?
Right. Yeah.
After the border? You're putting him in charge of the drones?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, and I mean, the Wall Street Journal had a great article. We'll get to it a little bit later on, but drones and the cost of lost trust, exactly what we said last week.
Yeah.
And we were saying is like, this is one of the biggest things to come out of this, unless they're really extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
But if they're not, the biggest story that I see out of it is this is the example. As we said last week, Wall Street Journal had an article on it saying the exact same thing we said. This shows you what happens when there is zero trust in the government.
Yeah.
When there is zero trust in the government, conspiracy theories will fly, left and right. And so when they say, no, this isn't U.S. military, and then Congress is going to get a classified briefing on the drones, well, if it's not ours and you have no idea what it is,
right,
what's the classified briefing going to be about?
Right. Some YouTubers, is that classified? When Kirby was up there the other day, I think it was Thursday, I was like, blah, 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 man. I can't believe a thing you say.
I know.
There's nothing I can trust coming from you or anyone in this administration. It might be nothing. It might be a prankster or a set of pranksters. Then again, it might be terrorists. It might be I have no idea what it is, and I can't trust anything. The moment they get up there, the thing is that typically you'd say, well, they wouldn't want to be embarrassed if they got it wrong, if they were proven to lie. And I thought, they don't care about being embarrassed. They don't care about lying to the American people. They don't care about being embarrassed if they get caught lying, which they've gotten caught how many times over the years? I wish I had $1 for every time.
Is embarrassed the right word, or that they don't feel any shame when they lie?
Yeah.
Or you can say embarrassed or shame. I mean, shame, whatever.
Right.
Should I say Shane?
Yeah.
Embarrassment. They don't feel shame when they get caught lying.
Right.
And
there's nothing. They don't, because they don't feel any responsibility to tell the truth in the first place. So if you don't feel that in the first place, if you don't have that that sense of responsibility at that level, then you're not going to care if you get caught lying. You don't care. You're moving on to the next lie. You're already on to something else. Because I could see them saying, well, we had the wrong information at the time. I mean, they're seriously that arrogant and that dishonest, and have been time and time again. This is the same president who, along with others in his administration, lied to the American people, lied to the people, the Americans that were living in Afghanistan for months about what the top generals were saying. And then it was found out the then president of Afghanistan, Biden was trying to get him to help Biden lie. He wanted the help from the then president of Afghanistan to spread the lie. So, on drones, we're not going to get the truth. I don't believe anything that's coming out of Kirby's mouth or Jean-Pierre or any of them.
Well, didn't the president tell the truth the other day when I think he was at the DNC holiday party where he came out and said that he's proud to have been president over a scandal-free administration.
Yeah, scandal-free.
You're just like, wow.
You know why? Because he pardoned himself of all scandals. He just waves a wand. He thinks it all just goes away.
So the pardon of his son
Yeah.
means your scandal. Well, that's the best part. It was a week afterwards, scandal-free. You pardon your son.
Right. He thinks that's what it means. He's like, no, we did the pardon thing. There are no scandals left.
And then the news out there. I mean, it's the I'll call it medium hype over Kamala Harris. Okay, will she run for governor? Is she going to run for president again? Is this going to be something? Does she have a comeback? Shut up!
Stop talking. Her own party doesn't want her. The donors have already talked. The big donors have already said, we don't want to go back to that.
You see that Linda Lee? She doesn't believe the Democrats are going to come back, for a decade.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll ask the question again. Why? I mean, she may believe in all their issues, but how she connects the dots for what they've done shows, I think, the critical thinking and logic you would expect out of a conservative.
Right.
And
major donor for the left. And she's made conservative points about their party since the election.
We got a great show ahead. 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. You may not be able to predict blizzards and ice storms, but you can prepare your truck to handle them. Make sure your truck is prepared for any last-minute winter storms by keeping tabs on your tires before each trip. Proper tire traction is essential year-round, but especially during winter when the roads are slick and roadway behavior is unpredictable. Protect your tire investment with routine checks and pre-trip inspections all winter long. Check pressure levels, tread depth, and inspect for any visible damage or debris stuck in wheel components. Look for steam or melted snow coming off wheel hubs, as this could indicate your wheel bearings are overheating. If necessary, give your tires a warm wash before inspecting them, as snow can cover potential warning signs of damage.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let me just play a little bit of this clip here, and I'm not going to get into the minutia of it. I just want to play it for sort of background. George Stephanopoulos talking with Mayorkas about the drones.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us.
Okay, just wanted to play that because nobody trusts the government right now because of the Biden administration and their pathological lying and their gaslighting. Nobody trusts the federal government right now. They don't.
Exactly.
Anything they say, they don't believe. Nobody trusts Mayorkas. So this week with George Stephanopoulos, who just agreed with ABC to pay Trump $16 million, because you take the 15 and then you take the 1 for attorney's fees, $16 million because they lied about Trump. So you have Stephanopoulos, who just had to settle a $16 million payment to Trump for lying about him, and then Mayorkas, that's a pathological liar about the border, and they bring him on to give confidence to the people that the federal government is being honest with them concerning the drones.
Yeah.
You can't make this up.
I mean, is there... Do they think they live on another planet? Because it's like they do. It's like they think in their mind, oh, well, no one's going to see this. You know, we're on Mars. Everybody else is still on Earth. Nobody will see it. Oh, my gosh. Zero self-awareness.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Wow.
Thank you.
Well, here we are. I mean, this is last week before everybo's off for Christmas.
Yeah, in fact, it's our last week before the end of the year break for us. And, it's getting to that point where it's really slow and it's great. But I'm ready to kind of get through it. Once I'm ready to move on, you know what I mean, and get into the new year with everything else, it's like, okay, yeah. We've done a bunch of Christmas stuff. We've done everything, and then we're going to have a get-together this Sunday. And then on Christmas Day, it's going to be, fairly quiet around the house. But for me, it's like almost too slow. And I think by comparison to where we were for the last few years, I think that's the problem. It's like going, warp speed and then hitting the brakes.
Yeah. And
I'm not used to that, because I'm used to, 5 million things going on every day that are, boom, 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 boom. And knowing that we're in that transition period where there's really not a lot going on. I mean, it appears that, Hegseth is not giving up on his campaigning on Capitol Hill.
It looks like he's going to get, I think right now, because if there was going to be new information, I think you would have heard it already.
I think it would have come out. I think if the media had something, they would have. And so if that's the case, then it appears that the head count is either workable or it's looking good right now. Workable, I mean, okay, someone is on the fence. Joni Ernst, if she's on the fence and says, I'm not going to commit either way right now, then you keep at it. You keep campaigning, you keep having those conversations, and we'll see where it goes. But there aren't any real stories otherwise.
When you said Kirby, and I think I'd mentioned it like a week ago, it's almost like, can we just get through Christmas? Yeah, not that I want to rush through Christmas. It's like when you said you heard Kirby and it was blah, 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 blah. It's like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done with this. And I think a lot of Democrats are, too. I want to play this audio cut from Face the Nation. Senator Klobuchar is on Face the Nation. And again, everything with Biden is bad news. Right. Biden's sitting in this bubble just going, well, no scandals whatsoever. And then all the 1,500 pardons. Nobody has come close to pardoning as many people. And here's on Face the Nation, two Democrats, because it's CBS's Face the Nation. That's one Democrat. And then Amy Klobuchar. And all they're doing is pounding on Biden.
Yeah.
Here we go.
This past week, he had this record number of commutations, 1,500 Americans, more than any president in any single day. Among them, though, there was a judge involved in a so-called Cash for Kids scheme that sent thousands of kids to jail for millions of dollars. A man who committed tax fraud at a cost of more than $1.6 billion, described as the most prolific, pernicious, utterly unrepented tax cheat in U.S. history. A woman who was involved in a $26 million scheme to defraud Medicare. Are you comfortable with some of these decisions?
No. There's also a man in Duluth that was running a major drug house, basically, and had all this money under his bathroom tiles, was also commuted. So the way I look at this is I also didn't agree with the pardon of the president's son.
I mean, they want him gone. It's like, I think every day that he's in there, even the story coming out that they're auctioning off very cheap, all the, the steel or whatever
for the fence, for the border wall,
for the border wall.
Yeah.
And I heard the other story that Governor Abbott wants to bid on it and be the biggest bidder.
Well, let's get Elon Musk, because if they're doing it, I saw it was like $5 per slat or something per section. Well, we don't even need Elon Musk in that bidding war. We can, jump in on it, and then you hand it back to the Trump administration.
But everything is, that's not good to hear that. I mean, that's not because
it was horrible.
Because on the issues, Trump got elected on the issues, but you take all of this and then you take every single day. There's another thing that you can look at and say, Trump victory, Trump victory, Trump victory, Trump victory. And then again, they're getting into all the stuff of, and everybody's, Trump's in a lot of celebrating with Republicans. And you and I understand that's a part of all politics. You got to celebrate. Yeah. You've got to unite. You've got to say, okay, we're all, but the fact is, all I care is what they get done. I don't, you and I have done this too long. I don't care about the celebrating. I don't care if we've won. Okay, fine. You won. We look at it, we look at election as draft day, which when draft day happens in the NFL, okay, we got the player. Is he going to be good? Because you can look at it. Look at the NFL, for example, and how many quarterbacks get drafted and how few quarterbacks, even first-round quarterbacks, don't succeed, in the NFL. So they've got
Johnny Football. There's all that excitement. Turns out his middle name was college.
Yeah. Or foosball.
Exactly.
I'll never forget that one, Johnny Foosball, that one meme, and this guy, playing foosball. So they've got a lot to handle coming up here, and we'll see what they do, and we wish them all the luck in the world for the majority of what they're attempting to do. Things worry me. Wall Street Journal had an article the other day about Trump saying, well, yeah, we could really automate the ports, but is automation worth the worker? On the ports. Right. As if the government should come in and stop automation.
Right. In other words, we should spend money or something. It tells me that the government is willing to spend money on jobs programs and not efficiency, if that's the case. While that may not directly relate when it comes to the ports, it's kind of in that same territory.
Well, yeah, it's not, by the way, not that the government is going to get in, but the government's taking the side that automation, shouldn't come in. That's what liberals do. Right. And you and I have said the biggest worry that we have is Trump will tap into the liberal side of him that has existed in the past.
Right.
And that is the fear that we've had. Most of it, though, looks like it's not going to go that way.
Well, that's it. On the big items, and there are some much bigger items that we have to tackle. Then those things have to come together. And I tend to believe they're going to come together. If they are going to come together, they're going to come together fairly quickly because they have to. They don't have much time to work. Trump only has the one term. But also, I don't know that I think in some ways it's going to be a lot quieter than it was in 2016. The reason is because, and I could be wrong, but it stands to reason that it would be, you had too many GOPers that weren't fully on board with him in his first term coming in. And then, of course, you had everything being thrown at him and the liberal media going crazy at every move. He had the sniffles, so they were accusing him of, doing drugs or something. I mean, it was every single time he took a breath, things thrown at him. So the accomplishments that come in, the media's at this, this crossroads. I don't know that they realize it, so we'll see. But you're being rejected. What you do is being rejected more and more and more. You change what you do, you change how you do it, or you're going to be totally irrelevant very, very soon, if not already, depending on the news group.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the lead headline in thehill.com, Democrats recalibrate their resistance to Trump. Democrats are not planning an all-hands resistance to President-elect Trump, at least not in the 2016 style, when lawmakers, activists, volunteers, and millions of angry voters mounted a party-wide effort to curb his newfound influence in Washington, where so much was once unprecedented. Trump is now familiar. Ahead of January 2025, the lack of unified Democrat rebuttal to his second term is the latest sign that the party's just beginning to soul search, trying to figure out what went wrong before banding together to bash the GOP. The one thing we seem to know is that the strategy of being an anti-Trump party didn't work any better than when we became a primarily anti-Bush party, said Max Burns, a Democratic commentator. In that transformation, we seem to have become unclear about what our actual pro-Democrat message is. It's more like Republicans post-1960 than anything, he said, where the loss led to real round of questioning about what our values are and what the strategy is. Do I have to say it again? Because they keep throwing out these long sentences and words and, trying to weave this thing of trying to figure it out. And it's very simple. You suck on the issues.
That's what it comes down to. They never really get back to talking the issues. They never acknowledge that they're wrong on the issues.
Yeah.
They sit here and, like you said, they make up these new words and go, well, what we have to do is regroup and blah, 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 blah. And we have to campaign differently and blah, 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 blah. Issues.
Well, it's like, did you see where, I can't think of Harris's, deputy campaign manager who was out there saying, well, one of the problems is, Trump was able to go to the alternative media. We tried to do it. We tried to get, I'm not kidding, Kamala Harris on sports-related podcast in order to get men. We were rejected by all of those sports podcasts and shows. Now, they say, if that's true, he didn't go into specifics in the article, part of the article that I saw. But if that's true, number one, she would have been a horrible guest. Number two, we know the conditions that they put on any interview.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if you're a sports podcaster, having her on ruins your credibility.
Oh, yeah. It's going to kill your credibility.
Your audience does not want her on.
Right.
You're not going to, you're not going to go tough on her on tough questions on the issues. You're a sports podcast. There's very little reason. This isn't Bill Clinton with a saxophone on Arsenio Hall, where you get on and you just say, just put your sunglasses on, play a saxophone badly, and then, sit down. It's not that. She couldn't adapt. She couldn't adapt to any situation. Because, quite frankly, if she were to come out and talk like the radical that she is, and we saw some of that in the Senate when she served in the Senate, if she were to talk like that, it's like, wow, you can't say that out loud. There was no way she could campaign that way. So she ended up having to go in such a bogus manner pro-Trump. I mean, it was the stupidest thing ever.
I know.
She's going to be stronger on the border than Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Remember that
ad?
That ad. The ad would talked about how she's going to be, she'll get the border secure.
Oh, my gosh.
Trump can't, she will.
She's the border czar for Biden. Don't worry, this time she means it. I mean, what in the world? And the fact that she was trying to pretend like she was stronger on the border than Trump. If you're a sports podcast, you avoid that all day.
Oh, yeah.
All day long.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I doubt the legitimacy of that. Mm-hmm. That and maybe they did, but maybe they said, but you can't ask this question, you can't ask this, you can't ask this. Everything as we know, there were so many conditions. Rogan said the conditions were there. No, this is what I do.
Right. Yep. And we do it in the studio. Yeah, we don't do it, we don't do it somewhere else. I'm not going to fly to her. It's not going to be 1 hour. It's going to be however long. And he said she can talk about whatever she wants. Now, I don't know. He never said they gave us a list of things we can't talk about. If he did, I missed that. But in the conversation that he had, I forget who he had it with, but I don't think it was Trump, but it was after he had Trump on.
Didn't they have conditions? They had conditions to someone. I forgot who it was.
Yeah. Well, they had conditions for her. You mean her camp?
Yeah.
Yeah, forget that. Well, they said they won't do more than an hour. That was part of their conditions for Rogan. I don't know about topics or anything else.
I thought there was conditions on topics.
Yeah, there probably was.
I forgot who it was.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, Joe Rogan actually said it. I found the quote. He said there were a few restrictions of things they didn't want to talk about, but I said I don't give a blank. I go, get her in here like whatever you want her to talk about.
Yep, that's what I saw.
And then they want to know if I edit. I'm like, no, there's not going to be any editing. There's no editing. We're not going to edit. And it's going to be 3 hours. So even with the restrictions of things she didn't want to talk about, she still wouldn't go on Rogan.
Right.
Why? Because they suck on the topics.
They knew. They knew. They were trying to set up something that she couldn't meet in terms of the demands, and ultimately she couldn't go on.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just so you know, we live in Texas. I have not seen any drones. We are drone-free.
Yeah. Had some great listeners. I took a picture the other night of the scenery, my wife's Christmas party, which is slightly less comfortable than a colonoscopy. And we had a... No, it was beautiful. By the way, it was so great. So great. An open bar, and I don't drink. But the whole thing is that the beautiful setting and the moon and everything else. I took a picture, and a lot of our great listeners, oh my gosh, is that a drone? Jokingly, responding, and also wishing us a Merry Christmas. And so thank you to all that. It was so much, much fun. But it's, the drone thing, seriously, it is such a cool name. The New Jersey Drones and the Mothership. That is a band.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a band.
Yeah.
And I at first, the New Jersey Drones,
and the Mothership.
Just without the Mothership, it was, okay, that's got to be punk rock. The New Jersey Drones and the Mothership has to have horns, doesn't it?
Well, it sort of like it would be an extension, like it's Jefferson Starship instead of Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah.
The Mothership.
I don't want to get into the we built this city conversation.
God.
But if the New Jersey Drones and the Mothership, that sounds like you've got a full horn section. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The
Mothership.
And the mothership, right?
Is the horn section.
You've got a whole 3 or 4 background singers. You've got a whole band. You've got more people in your band than Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Well, now that you mention it, I can mention it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you have the colonoscopy, is that old man talking about his intestines again? But you have to go through the prep and everything else, and so I was up really all night,
right?
And so I was watching a ton of different TV, and I went, oh wow, look at this! There's a lot of there's some. I've got the Brian Setzer Christmas CD, the one from. Well, it's the one after they didn't have a piano player anymore. They got rid of he got rid of the piano player.
Okay.
But I found one. I said, I got to watch this, when I'm done. And I didn't do a lot the 24 hours after either. I was pretty zonked with the head cold and everything else. But I found one, and I don't know, it has to be probably at least 15 years. It was before they got rid of the piano player. I had no idea. Brian Setzer Orchestra, Angels We Have Heard on High. Absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing. Just greatness.
Yeah.
And how he takes a song like that and still adds in the
right.
And then go into it. And then the vocals, they had the 2 background singers, and he actually sang harmony with them, with, I think, one of the other members of the band, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great. So I still haven't watched the DVD that I have, the one from a couple of years back. But when I saw that, I went, okay. And the thing is with Brian Setzer, he could play Christmas music. He could play punk. He could play class. He could play classical. He could play Beethoven.
One of the coolest things I ever witnessed firsthand was I worked before this job at a rock station, top-rated alternative station here in Dallas. And on the morning show, we did Stump Brian Setzer. And I set in to witness this, and it was basically a listener would call in, no screening the call. They call in, you put them on, they name a song, and he has to play it on his guitar. One of the callers said, the theme to the Flintstones. Didn't miss a beat. Straight into it. It was like, oh my gosh. It probably to a lot of people sounded set up. If I were listening to it, I would have said, they planted some calls. Because he didn't miss a beat on anything until you realize what kind of musician he is. Until you realize, he's a guy that's put in the work for decades and decades and decades and decades. And it was just watching it I was just floored. I just thought to myself, my gosh, if you're going to be a musician, you should put in that kind of work. I mean, if you really want to be good, you have to put in that kind of work.
When I was in pop radio, I can still remember, we played the Stray Cats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in Stray Cats Strut, I'm like, this is okay. Whatever. A little bit of rock, but whatever. And I actually liked how the punk movement went to rockabilly. There were some couple of bands in Canada that did that that I just absolutely loved when they did that. But I just like, this is pretty, God, was I wrong? Because, boy, this is pretty simple. So move forward. Probably, I'm in talk radio, 14 years later, mid-90s this is. And it was a day that I had signed a contract. I signed the contract to go I was working in Buffalo, from Buffalo to our great affiliate that carries us in Portland, Oregon, KXL.
Yeah.
I had signed the deal like 3:30 in the afternoon, and my buddy Jeff called me up and he said, and so I'm getting ready. It's like, okay, I signed the deal, which means I'll be leaving in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
It's like your mind starts working. My buddy Jeff calls. Hey, what are you doing? I just signed the contract. Well, then good. You got to go celebrate with me. I've got the ticket. Wife doesn't want to go, whatever. And it's Brian Setzer and his orchestra. And I went, I really don't want to go. He goes, no, you want to go.
Yeah.
He goes, have you heard it yet, what they do? And I go, no. He goes, you want to go. Went to a small club called the Tralf, small jazz club. Fits at that time, maybe 300.
Perfect.
Absolutely blew my mind. I realized that the rhythm section that you hear today, and for example, in a heavy metal band, even the chords for AC/DC, whatever. I finally tied that into big band music and the horn section because that horn section, when you were in a small club like that, was as powerful as any heavy metal chord.
Yeah.
It was as powerful as AC/DC, was as powerful as anything I've ever seen in my life. And that's before Setzer's going crazy on the guitar. I walked out of there numb.
Yeah.
I mean, I was numb.
Right.
I never forget my buddy Jeff and I. It was like I think we had parked. We were going to take the subway to nowhere back to the university. That's what they call it in Buffalo. It's like 6 miles long subway. That's it. And we're walking. He goes, you want to catch it? He said, let's go do a beer. I go, yeah, I'm numb too. We just sat there.
Right.
We sat there at a bar across the street, just drinking a beer, looking at each other, going, what the hell was that?
Right.
What in the hell was that?
Right.
And, I've had probably 5 of those moments in my life, but I had one after that, but that was just mind blowing, where you just went unbelievable. And that was not only just a great experience, but it tied me in to how big band went to rock.
Yeah.
It made me understand the tie-in.
Well, Bill Haley and the Comets really were a swing band.
You're right. Well, big band swing.
Right.
Big band swing, and how you took, the Benny Goodman, the Dorsey brothers, and everything else, and how you took stuff like that. And when I watched, and the thing is, by that point, I had already watched the Benny Goodman story with Steve Allen, and I was always impressed by that because where he breaks loose because he got radio airplay on the West Coast.
Right.
Benny Goodman, when he starts playing his stuff, and you start hearing it. And the kids are going crazy. I know why they went crazy.
Right.
And I didn't understand it when I was young. My father go, "Oh, you missed the swing era." Yeah, horns, whatever.
Right.
I was completely wrong.
Oh no, there were things I didn't look at, stop, and inspect along the way as a musician when I was a kid. That I maybe should have, depending on where I was going with it. I mean, I never wanted to live on the road, so if I was going to do that for a living, I probably should have been a studio musician and, maybe do some great work with our colleagues down the hall at TM Studios. They do some outstanding work and they hire incredible musicians. But when you look at that, and you look at we talked about Skunk Baxter. Yeah. These individuals, again, believed and always practiced putting in the work because quite often they were also session musicians as Baxter was. And when you look at it still is. You look at Steve Lukather, same thing
from Toto, from Toto,
all the guys in Toto, that really, I mean, these guys were total music geeks. I mean, they were, and you really had to be on your game, and so when you see them live doing what they do, that's kind of the culmination. Baxter talked about that when he was when he convinced the other members of the Doobie Brothers after he transitioned into the Doobie Brothers from Steely Dan to do some session work. And he said, look, it'd be good for everybody in the band. And it turned out it was, and he was proven right. And, that kind of, again, crafting what you do it's always been impressive to me. It's what drew me in the first place to play. It was about, and then when you learn too that how you attack an instrument and how you perform as an individual creates that signature sound. Eddie Van Halen is a prime example. There were a number of people that said he came into a studio. I met him one time, came into our studio, played my guitar, but somehow got his sound out of it because it was him. Because of the way that he played. Yep. And that's kind of, what it gets down to is that, and Rick Beato, again, another great, person of knowledge when it comes to, and musician, and producer, but on YouTube, Beato, Rick Beato, great follow, because he's good at breaking down music, and also he has some great interviews with some legends on there. And I didn't really, again, I didn't buy Steely Dan albums because they were on the radio.
You didn't have to.
I didn't have to. A lot of that stuff, I didn't buy the Police albums because I was in the radio when they made it big.
I had Can't Buy a Thrill. I did.
Yeah, and so, but when you break down the individual parts, and it's like, holy cow, man, the work that goes into it.
Did I say this earlier? Beato and this woman singer from England.
Yeah.
They broke down the thing was Jim Croce's Time in a Bottle lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at the end, at the end of them analyzing it, I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
Croce's gone. I'm like, oh,
I know.
It was because they were breaking down the lyrics of it, and then the chord patterns to get the emotion into it. They broke down an entire song, which is why I like that. I love that. The cover band I talk about, Lexington Lab Band,
right,
because they do the same thing, and they break down, they break down songs and redo them again, and just perfection. By the way, the show I went to, the Petersons the other day, which I consider one of the top American bands right now producing music, bluegrass genre, but they're just, I know they have the instruments of bluegrass, but they're the Petersons. Well,
they
were great the other night.
Yeah, and I'm a huge
great
bluegrass fan, but as a musician, just watching them work again blows my mind. blows my mind.
Just mind-boggling. Great theater, by the way, the Arlington Music Hall.
Yeah.
Best seats ever. I don't care where you go. You ever see you're in Dallas, you ever a band at the Arlington Music Hall, you go. Because they have these chairs where you sit, go into a theater, and this is an old theater built, decades upon decades. It built maybe 1930s, something like that. They've got the most cushioned seats that rock back and forth.
Yeah,
you can rock, and the band's playing. Everybody's like moving back and forth. They don't rock, a lot, but they rock enough where they got the springs in them.
Right.
I'm like, these are the best seats ever, by far, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, they're about an 800 seat arena. They bring in a lot of bands, that probably older people like. And one of the things that ticks you off is, number one, when a band that you liked from 40 years ago comes in, you don't want the show starting at 10. You want it starting at 5,
right.
And you want to be able to sit because we're old.
Exactly. Nobody's standing up anymore.
It's like, don't make a stand. Don't book your band in a place. Well, we've got like 100 seats, but the 900 others are basically standing room.
Right.
We're past 50. Stop it.
Look, if you're in Rio watching Iron Maiden, you stand. But other than that.
Or if you're at the Army-Navy game.
Yeah, exactly.
And a cadet, you stand.
You stand. Exactly. Exactly.
And quickly going to that, moving on, because, my God, we're off for 3 days. In my mind, there's just so much in it.
I know.
When it said, I knew it, but when I heard it the other day that Biden has never gone to the Army-Navy game.
Yeah.
How the hell can you be commander-in-chief
how
of the
world?
president of the United
How
States?
How in the world?
Of the armed forces, and you're not there every single year unless there's something of massive importance.
Right. He doesn't care.
That's why. Can't you be there?
It's a tradition, and how you don't recognize that as commander-in-chief, what tells you everything about him?
I don't even care who wins the game.
No. It's
I don't even
not
care
about
who wins
that.
the game. I watched it I didn't watch the entire thing because I had I was still sick, but I watched about half of the game, and it was just it's
a tradition.
I love it. It is. You're right. It's a tradition.
Yeah,
almost to me a rite of passage for being an American. It's like, well, I have to. I want to watch it, but I have to watch it.
It's legendary. And how you couldn't recognize that as commander-in-chief?
Never went once.
Unreal. But it's Joe Biden.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one-truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, I want to touch back with that article that's in thehill.com saying Democrats may act differently towards Trump this time, and also the problem that the left has.
Yeah.
And I thought about it when we were talking about the Army-Navy game just briefly, and MSNBC bringing it up about, J.D. Vance inviting Daniel Perry.
Mm-hmm. Penny.
I keep saying Perry, don't I? Daniel Penny there. And just, they don't even make sense. So we will get to that. Yes, I've been asked a question many times over the weekend. Gary, what do you think the drones are? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Don't know.
I have no idea. I can't trust anything coming from this administration. I can tell you that.
You don't have an opinion on it? Nope. I don't have any information.
Nope. I have no idea.
And lights in the sky.
Don't know.
Yeah. I know everybody's speculating. I don't speculate when I have no information to go on whatsoever. The only thing I can tell you is the reason that there's so much speculation is the fact that nobody trusts the damn government.
Exactly.
That's the one conclusion.
We should know by now, but we don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we'll ever learn. Honestly, I don't know if we'll ever learn what they are.
Walking in a winter wonderland. Gary and Eric on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Merry Christmas.
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
We're playing Christmas music here. Just, 9 days away now. And did we miss an anniversary? Did I hear you talking in the hallway?
Yeah. Apparently everybody did. I was waiting for my cake. December 9th, 28 years. It's a week ago today,
really?
actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And our longest running affiliate, aside from our flagship WBAP, WJR in Detroit, signed on with us going back to the Bill Mack days this morning, December 16th.
Wow.
1996. 1900. Say it. Say 100. Put the 100 in the middle, and it sounds a lot longer. And I started this job in 1996.
Wow. They had electricity?
No, they didn't. We did it by candlelight and megaphone. The voices carried in the night, but it was. Yeah, I'm grateful. The thing is, I still feel like a newbie. I still feel like, okay, wait, but we're just getting started. There's still a lot more to do. And 28 years at one job. I'm proud of that. I don't know what the consensus would be. With people, in the generations behind us, if you say that, if they would go, wow, that's not smart. You should move on. You should move on to different jobs all the time or whatever. I don't know what the mindset is, because with us, it was generational. For us growing up, I was always in a smaller town, with the exception of San Antonio when I was a kid. But really, when I started thinking about working, getting a job, I was in a small town, and you would think about, okay, a job in manufacturing. Certainty, Siemens Alice, and a number of manufacturers. Oh, Stanley Tools, my wife and brother both worked there. But the idea would be you get on and you stay on, and then that's your career. That's the whole. And we were excited about that prospect. We were excited about that starting back then at like $7 or $8 an hour. And we were like, are you kidding me? That would be awesome. And we would always look for a job where it's like, okay, where you can go and you're going to be there. That's going to be your career. But things started to change. Manufacturing started to change, but the mindset also started to change, probably because, in part, manufacturing was changing. And I got into radio at 18, and I got into manufacturing, actually worked at a bakery for a very short time. It was a matter of weeks. It was actually only to help someone who needed some fill-in, and it was the possibility of moving to full-time. But it was like 120 degrees, and, because, it was this massive bakery thing. I don't think it's that way anymore. I don't think they operate that way. But it was a smaller bakery, not just a corner bakery. You had huge contracts you had to fulfill for fast food companies and everything else. So it was a lot of work and a lot of sweating. And I was like, no, thanks. But when I got into radio at 18, I just, kept going. It was like, and then instantly fell in love with radio. And then, when I got to this job, it was like, oh, yeah, it was great. Bill Mack was the all-night host going back to 1969. So 32 years for Bill, 28 years that I've been on board. And I still feel like the newbie. We lost Bill during COVID, and still keep in touch with his family, Billy, his son, who is an awesome person, and his lovely wife, Cindy, and their entire family. Just great people. But,
you and I next year, 20 years together.
20 years as a team.
Yeah. 20 years.
I remember talking about a couple of times over the years, early on in our time together, talking about, teams that had been, legendary teams that had worked together for years and years and years. That really is unheard of these days. I mean, you don't see it. We think of our flagship, Hal J. and the late Dick Siegel that worked together for years. We think of our great affiliate in Chicago, WLS, and Don and Roma. These legendary teams. And I always, I'm always humbled by just even talking about them. But 20 years next summer.
Yeah, that to me, I never expected that when I started on the show, because I only wanted to stay a year. Yeah. I hadn't told you that, but it's like, stay a year and get the hell out of here. But that ended. I mean, I knew a week in, that probably wasn't going to happen, because I knew we had, if we got the show to where we wanted it, I knew that we would stay doing it together, because we knew we had the chemistry, and we never, both you and I had the same thing. Let's not figure out why.
Right. Let's just do the work.
Yeah, because you can't
come in every night, do the work.
I still can't. When people tell me, how'd you guys get to this point? I'm like, how the hell do I know?
I can't write that playbook. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, there is no playbook in it, except the fact that you just love this business. And I always, for me, because people ask me, why'd you want to get into the radio? I mean, why did you want to do that? Well, I never wanted to do talk radio, but I wanted to, be in front of a microphone. I wanted to be in radio, simply because I wanted to be the guy. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I wanted to be that guy who told the kids school is off. Then later on, when I got into, more of really, music radio did the same thing, but I was more down south. When I moved back up north and snow days happened, I wished I wasn't in radio.
Right.
It was good, because remember, people would call the phone. Your phone lines would be lit all the time. Hello, is my school? Listen to the radio. Listen to the radio. Listen to the radio. Nobody wanted to listen to it. All wanted to call and get it immediately, as if you were an operator. That was your job, to pick up the phone and tell people that, that schools, aren't closed. Now that's really gone.
Well,
not that they don't do it, but the list is online, or
the schools
whatever.
Will text
schools
you,
will text you,
and
email
and you get all of that information very quickly. And also, I remember in the first several years at WBAP that the morning show would be taken up by the listing of closures by school districts, because even though the internet was around, you couldn't assume that everybody had the internet available to them in their home.
Right.
And before smartphones especially. So you still did the entire list of closings, and then you would just go, so one person on the show would take one part of the list, the other person would take the other part, and it would just continue. And because it is that you do have that responsibility to your audience to inform them. And of course, we take that very seriously. But in today's age, you can redirect them, or it's assumed now that they already know on something like a school closure. It's still sometimes a story, but you don't have to go through and repeat over and over again.
One thing that I did as a station manager, the most controversial thing I ever did. I stopped 15 minutes every morning of just reading obituaries.
Oh,
remember the reading of obituaries?
Yeah, I can't imagine that decision, by the way.
Yeah,
because you know you're going to get hit when it stops.
I got hit, but I said we can't do it. The station, you do that. The station. It sounds as old as me talking about my colonoscopy as an old man.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's actually humor there.
Right.
But I mean, the obituaries, it was like they would just read every single. They just grabbed the newspaper.
Right.
And just read every single obituary in the newspaper. Didn't matter if it was 2 weeks old. You still, you just
read it.
You need to fill 15 minutes, and obituaries brought. We had sponsors of it,
right?
But it's like, well, most people don't want to hear the obituaries,
right? Right.
It seems like they do because they respond. Oh man, that was the most controversial thing I ever did was take off the.
I can't imagine.
It worked out,
right?
But boy, that was controversial. You can't take off the obituaries.
Right.
Everybody wants to know who died.
Right.
Well, newspapers exist. Grab your newspaper.
Right.
And then if we did, some prominent person died, well, you did their obituary.
Yeah, exactly.
I got arrested. One.
Yeah.
It's like,
this
former senator, who served for, 50 years in the Senate has died.
Right.
Well, you did his obituary, so you'll do the elite obituary.
So he's more important than... Yeah.
Right, exactly. Right. It's like his memory is more important. It's like, I'm not going to win this.
Yeah. I remember something called Tradio.
Oh, yeah.
So...
They still do that. Small stations still do that.
Do they do it?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like...
all over the place.
I got an old Fender Squire guitar. It doesn't have a neck or strings or much of a body left, but I'll sell it for $5.
Yeah, they still do. Oh, ton of small market radios.
I went into one time. I was in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and we were there. And it was a stopover on our entire trip. My kids were very small, but two brothers ran this station, and the station. Every day, it was a different format. So Wednesdays would be country.
Oh, wow.
They would have oldies on, Friday or whatever. And it was so cool to listen to. And I was in radio then. And it was so cool to listen to. It was like, hey, I'm going to be over at the hardware store today at around 1 if you want to come by and say hi. And it was just this hometown feel that I greatly appreciated. Because we were there for 2 or 3 nights, and it was like, this is the coolest thing ever. They're serving their town.
I worked in a lot of small market radio towns, and I still today I'm a part of the the Facebook pages at small market radio.
Yeah,
I still just the tie when you're in a small market.
Yeah.
Like that, and you meet the people.
Yeah.
It's not like an announcer-listener relationship. You actually become part of the family. I remember when I worked in Marshall, Texas, and I've talked about this story when during Christmas, Christmas Day, I'd say, I wasn't married.
Right.
Everybody was married. You got families, you go. And I remember the one time being on the air from 6 o'clock at night, or 6 o'clock, or maybe 5 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Just running the music over and over again.
Right.
People brought in food.
Yeah.
Look, could you imagine that today? Yeah. Nobody could ever do.
Right.
People were just showing up. There was like 3-4 people out knocking on the door. You go, you open it up.
Right.
Here's some pumpkin pie. Here's this,
cookies,
here's that. I mean, I walked away stuffed, but I was playing Christmas music all the day, and people would have you on. I said, well, we need to go up. Let's go up and get Gary something. Let's bring him something to eat. As if, you're the uncle or the next door neighbor.
Right.
Nothing nothing can touch that. I mean, that's where the human voice.
Yeah.
That's, I think, where it has some of the greatest impact in the local markets that, it always did. But those were just wonderful. Those were wonderful and great times when I think about it, which probably don't even exist today. You're probably not going to trust somebody. Maybe you will. I mean, some of the small markets, it might still be there.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
But greatness.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but
congrats on forgetting about your anniversary last week.
It's interesting because I thought about it on the way in. I thought, well, wait a minute. December 9th has already passed. Oh, wow, that was last week. That was a week ago. Because, again, it all feels now, these days, it all feels like one day that just keeps going and going, which I love, by the way. It's just a great, it's a great feeling. I still love this gig.
I love having that conversation with people. So how do you prepare for a show each and every day? It's like, you don't. It goes.
It doesn't stop.
It never stops. Right. There is no, separation anymore.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. How the leftist media is having a problem trying to focus. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. Also, where the Democrats plan on going against Trump. We had touched on that earlier, but really interesting. While we may not challenge him, in fact, we may agree with him on some of his agenda. Well, that's probably smart because that's why you lost.
Well, that's it. And where that goes from here, you and I wondered about that after the election, since the election, and it seems to be shaping up that way. I guess we'll see if it holds.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Now, here's the headline, Eric.
Okay.
Liberals cancel subscriptions to Time magazine after Donald Trump named Person of the Year.
How many actually had subscriptions to Time magazine?
I don't know. But when I see this here, because we're talking about this article, lead article in thehill.com, Democrats recalibrate their resistance to Trump. It's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's read into this a little bit. And this is where I'm just like, I burst out laughing when I read this part of it. Ready for this?
Okay.
We're not clearly persuading labor or Hispanics or young people the way we used to because our message is so vague. It's not. Now that it's hard to grab on and rally behind, he said, voters are angry and they want populism, and they'll take a bad version of it over none at all, so Trump gets to sell his sham populism largely unchallenged. This is them now coming together with Republicans.
You're right.
Progressives have started to try a new tactic. Some in the Senate and House have expressed a willingness to consider, or even in some cases, enthusiastically embrace Trump's goals and administration picks. It's different from the tone ahead of his first term, when the sheer shock value of many of his choices burned through any goodwill Democrats may have been willing to offer. Some of the left are challenging Democrats' default to reject Republicans just for the sake of party loyalty. I think the hypocrisy of opposing an idea you agree with because somebody on the other side agrees also agrees is what is seen as one of the biggest problems with the two-party system right now, said former campaign advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders. And that's because he does, when Trump goes socialist, Bernie Sanders says, I want to do that.
Yeah. What did I do wrong? He's like, come on. I've been trying to do this for years.
Exactly. And I burst out laughing when I saw it was Bernie Sanders because,
yeah.
But the only thing he really agrees with them on is really tariffs, right? Is there anything else?
Yeah, that's the only thing I've heard.
Yeah.
I mean,
is there anything else? I don't know if there's anything else he agrees with them on.
Not that I know of. Look, it really is.
Was he formed when he pardoned some low-level drug users? Was he behind him then, I think, maybe?
Maybe. When you try and predict what the Democrats are going to do, it's a useless effort. It really goes nowhere in terms of a prediction. But it does stand to reason if you're going to hedge or if you're going to look at the probabilities as to where there might be a little room. You look at like Fetterman in Pennsylvania on energy, right? You look at Gallego in Arizona on military spending, or something in that area. You look to those, I don't know, not necessarily purple states, but the states where either Trump won, or that the pressure is there for those, senators and also members of the House, because the margin still is very slim. You're going to look for that cooperation, and you're going to see that kind of rallying on Capitol Hill when they want to get things done through Congress.
Well, that may be one or two you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe that the Democratic Party is going to make an effort to cooperate with Republicans. I don't see that happening because they haven't at all. They haven't budged at all on the radical transgender movement and the border. Not at all.
It's still in some ways, on some issues, an uphill battle for Trump to rally his own, some of the stalwarts in his own party, in the GOP. I mean, we talk about Murkowski, Collins, maybe a John Cornyn. It's like, all right, it's useless to try and predict what the Democrats are going to do, because the most you can come up with is one or two in the Senate. Maybe. And it depends on the issue, depends on the day. I just don't expect there to be this full-on effort, we're different. We're not the same party. We, whatever. That's just not going to happen.
But the reaction, for example, the liberals canceling Time Magazine and that was going through Democrat circles. We're going to cancel. Yeah. I mean, as we said, it's not even an award.
No.
And then we said, we got to go back and discuss this every single year for the last 42 years that I've been in radio. We're discussing that it's not an award.
Right.
And it's like we're still going through that all these years later. It's like, okay, nobody ever wants to deal with the truth anymore.
Right.
That's what I was thinking over the weekend, going, stop it, come on.
Yeah.
And, it's not an award, but the fact of that they react like that. I want to play this audio cut because this is, who do you get on board for the Democrats if you decide to be sane on any issue? This is MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle over the weekend, okay? Listen to her talk about the Army-Navy game and J.D. Vance inviting Daniel Penny and trying to have a moral equivalency here. I'm just going to play this. All right, here we go. Okay.
Topic, because there's something else I really want us to cover, because there has been huge reaction in the last week, right? We saw Daniel Penny, his acquittal, And at the same time, and a very, very, very different situation, but Luigi Mangione, the man who's now accused of the murder of the United Healthcare CEO, two very different situations, but in both situations, there's a person dead. And reactions that we are seeing are hugely celebratory in some circles, right? J.D. Vance is taking Daniel Penny to the Army-Navy football game tomorrow. And what we've seen in the last few years, right, we see the media divide us. We see that, sex sells, but anger and hate sells even more. How concerned should we be, though, that the American people, groups of the American people, are celebrating violence? Like, violence, that's the solution. That's what everyone should be doing these days. How concerned are you that this is where we are in this celebratory mode?
So she says they're not the same, and then she equates them as being the same.
Right. Well, almost like she was trying to put a disclaimer in for what she was about to say.
Right. We all know that if you act and put yourself on the line to protect other people in an act of self-defense, to defend not only yourself but other people, that is viewed as something to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting somebody in the back and murdering them is completely different.
Yep.
And she's trying to equate that you're just celebrating violence. Why are we celebrating violence? You're not celebrating or honoring somebody because of the word violence. Daniel Penny, you are celebrating what he did because he protected other people.
It's about intent in both cases, and it's vastly different.
And the intent was not there. But the fact that this is where, remember, that's the number one network of the Democratic Party. And I want to point that out. That's the problem that the Democrats have. This is the insanity of somebody like Stephanie Ruhle there, the insanity of trying, and she knows she's wrong. That's why she's trying to say they're two different cases, or two different cases, two different cases. But in these two different cases, they're celebrating violence.
Right.
No, they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really, again, it was like some weird disclaimer for what she was about to say.
Exactly.
It's like when people say, hey, with all due respect, and then they disrespect you. She knew what she was about to say, and they're trying real hard to equate the two. And they keep getting, all that keeps coming straight back at them like a boomerang, and they don't get it. I don't know why they don't see that, because it's not how their brain works.
Sounds like the person that says, look, I'm not a racist, but...
And then they go on to say the most racist things. Yeah.
But I saw that, I went, that's the problem that Democrats have. They can't get out of their own insane way. They can't do it.
Right.
And I don't see them doing it. And believe me, this is, I mean, they're all ticked off at Biden. I mean, the pardons, when saw some of the pardons from last week, they're going, what the hell's going on? And then he gets this on this weekend, no scandals in my administration.
Right.
We worked hard at that. I mean, the left is going, just shut up, get out of here, because you're not doing us any favor at all. But the fact is, Trump is still, he's not president. But when they start, I guarantee, when they start going after, which will be first, the illegal immigrants that have committed criminal acts and violent criminal acts, that they're going to go crazy. They're already going crazy on that. And so I don't see any of this coming together. I don't see, well, we need to find common ground.
No, they don't think that way. If they did, they would recognize the issues, and none of them have done that.
But if you're trying to make the case, as Stephanie Ruhle is, well, these two different cases, but Republicans are supporting this violence and the left supporting this violence, and violence is wrong. No, it's not. Violence can be justified.
In fact, we have laws that clearly allow people to defend themselves or others. That's what the entire Daniel Penny case was all about. It was about the intent. Did he set out did he just pick somebody randomly, Or did he target somebody on that day and say, I'm going to end their life? No.
No. And the fact is, I'm so glad you brought it up, the law exists. We have law that judges the morality of violence.
Right.
And in those laws, some violence is justified. And when you use violence in order to stop someone else from using violence and hurting innocent people, you are viewed as a hero.
Right. You risked your life.
You risked your life to help.
In order to help others.
Right. And little Stevie's part of the panel discussion. She was asking the question too. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was part of the panel discussion.
Wow.
It's like, well,
Yeah.
got to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, I guess I should wait and hold my opinions and keep them to myself until I hear.
but when I heard that, I went, that's it. That's a perfect example of where the left is right now.
Yeah, it is.
They don't know what to do, so they make asinine moral equivalency arguments.
Yeah.
That are just complete, not just asinine, insane moral equivalency arguments.
Yep. Yeah, and they keep doing it. They don't see anything wrong with it. In fact, they insist on it.
But we're doing this, and I'm doing this as Stephanie Rule, as if this is really a question that we need to ponder,
Right?
And consider. Sorry, your
Yeah.
premise is wrong.
Exactly. And it won't change because this is who they are. We've been saying it for a while. When you indoctrinate generations and generations and generations, and when people they might as well be from another planet, because they don't, in their mind, they don't get it. They don't see it. I can't tell you how their brain works, but mine doesn't work that way.
No. Hers does.
Yep. And they
I'm
desperately needed, by the way, they desperately needed the Penny case to be another instigator for protests and everything else. And it turned out not to be, because if you followed that case on the very basic level, you saw what happened. You saw what the witnesses said. You saw what went down.
It's just amazing. I mean, it's so poor.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, just hearing that, I go, no, they're not going to change. And that's the media that supports the Democratic Party.
Yep, it is.
866-90-RED-I.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. I'm just looking at going through these headlines here. Liberals sell subscriptions to Time Magazine after Donald Trump named Person of the Year. Jerry Brown, we've gone way beyond sanctuary law that I signed. Some cities went way, way beyond.
Yeah.
Tim Walz reflects on an election. How in the world did we lose to a billionaire? Oh, I mean, this whole weekend I've just been laughing. But the Walz thing, Tim Walz reflects on the election. How in the world did we lose to a billionaire? Now, he's been asking these questions for over a week now. I don't think he really knows. I think he actually lives in such a bubble of liberalism that he has no idea.
Right.
He is so insane on the issues,
right,
and he's in a bubble of insanity, and I really don't think he understands how regular people think.
No, I think he's completely out of touch. We talked about that with Governor Newsom. Once he steps out of the blue bubble of California, he's going to learn how much, he is not popular, how unpopular he is in parts of this country. Because when you live in that bubble, you think you've won it forever. You think your side has won it forever. And the Democrats really did. I think they thought that for years. after Obama gets elected twice and then Biden gets elected, they thought, well, what we're doing is correct. We don't understand how the playbook isn't still working.
Listen to here some of the quotes. I thought it was a real flex when the Wall Street Journal pointed out that I might have been the least wealthy person to ever run for president, said Walz. How in the world did we lose to a billionaire or a venture capitalist when we're making the case of a country attorney and a high school teacher?
Wow.
I mean, you're just like,
doesn't get it.
Doesn't get it.
Doesn't get it
No.
at all.
No.
Because again, they don't identify at all with the issues.
You know, when I heard that, I went, not private sector material. When I read that,
exactly.
the first thing I thought of.
Exactly.
Private sector people don't think like that.
Right. The fact that he considered that a flex, that he was the least wealthy to ever run for that office.
Yep.
You know, they did. By the way, they tried that with Joe Biden. Remember? I was the guy who took the train. Remember, he took the train when he was in the Senate. He took the train all the time. He took the train. Yeah, well, let's talk about it where his family enriched themselves and everything else. Oh, we can't because everything is pardoned. They tried that kind of approach over and over again. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. The message has to be on point. The message has to be on the issues. And none of these people have acknowledged what the issues are.
No, that's the one thing. They're tying themselves into knots, trying to figure out what went wrong. And we keep saying it. I keep using the S word on purpose to make the point, because you suck on the issues.
Yep.
That's why.
Yep.
That's why you lost.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what you think we're for the middle class. No, you're not, because you suck on these issues that the middle class wants.
Yep.
It's just amazing.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And it's Red Eye Radio.
All right.
He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Ho, ho, ho.
I like that Christmas music.
Well, we had played Stephanie Rule from MSNBC just to show you that they don't even know where to go anymore. I mean, they're trying to make moral equivalencies between the Daniel Penny self-defense and Luigi Mangione murdering somebody in cold blood, trying to make, somehow with J.D. Vance inviting Penny to the Army-Navy game, where the right celebrates violence, but so does the left, and trying to make the moral equivalency, which is just ridiculous. But we saw what happened, and the number of people that were attempting to say murder is wrong, but you can understand it because of the healthcare system.
That too is so bizarre. They go out of their way to try and justify it. The AOC saying if they didn't pay on a claim, then that could be seen as an act of violence if an insurance company didn't pay a claim.
Well, Fraser Institute in Canada out with the wait time to get treatment in Canada after hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent in that monopoly. You had the greatest waiting times ever. It now has hit 30 weeks.
Wow.
And that is the average time, the median wait time of 30 weeks before referral from a general practitioner and receipt and the receipt of treatment. 30 weeks. If that was that in the United States, you'd have an uproar. You'd have a revolution if that was the case in the U.S., would you not?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you start breaking it down to some of the different provinces here, you have New Brunswick. Back in 1993, okay, they went back to 1993. Remember the promise of nationalized health care in Canada?
Yeah.
In 1993, the average time from your general practitioner referring you to the time you got treatment was 12.3 weeks. Now, 69.4 weeks in New Brunswick. British Columbia, in 1993, 10.4 weeks. Now, 29.5. Alberta was 10.5, now 38.4 weeks. Saskatchewan was 9.8 weeks, now 37.2. Manitoba was 10.5 weeks, now 37.9. Wow. Ontario was 9.1, now 23.6. Let me see. Quebec, 7.3 in 1993, weeks before when you got the referral from a general practitioner, 28.9. Last time I got a referral, 8 days.
Yeah.
Before I got my treatment here in the United States for something I needed a referral on. 8
Right.
days.
Right.
If you want to look at it, they go through. Let me see. Here we go. I just want to get to the actual. Okay, patients waited the longest. Neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, 57.5 weeks. Neurosurgery, 46.2. Shorter waits for radiation oncology, which you have to have quicker there. That's still 4.5 weeks, which is pretty long if you need it immediately, right?
Oh, yeah.
Medical oncology, 4.7. Let me see. Across the 10 provinces, a study estimated that patients in Canada were waiting for 1.5 million procedures in 2024.
Wow.
What's our population? 30 million?
Yeah, 30,
30,
33, something like that.
Wow. Patients also suffered considerable delays for diagnostic technology, 8.1 weeks. CT scans, 8.1 weeks to get a CT scan, 16.2 weeks for an MRI. Wow. 5.2 weeks for ultrasound. Wow. But you look at the difference. You go back to 93. I remember all the discussion on the Canadian healthcare system. And the waiting times have been a problem that they have pumped in hundreds of billions of dollars. It's still going in the opposite direction. And as we get to now 31 years into the Canadian healthcare system, the wait time's longer than ever. Does that, to our friends on the left or any populist out there, does that justify murder?
Well, where's the threshold where you're sympathetic to the murderer? I don't get that at all.
Oh, I know. It's where we are. Going back and forth with another friend, presented him with Canada's statistics.
Yeah.
You're saying that our healthcare, look what's going on here, ignored me. Just never responded to it. And I sent it to him. I sent it to him with all the back. Look, right here. I said, does this justify murder? Because I've been on his case day and night. Justify murder? Justify murder? He was talking in the NFL yesterday how furious he was at one team. And I went, does that justify murder? whatever he would comment, I'd go, does that justify murder? Does that justify murder? You just go and do your little show. Somebody I've known a long time. So
And again, none of it, of course, justifies murder. They in their mind, they're so hell-bent on creating a victim. Even before they identified a suspect in the killing of Brian Thompson. Right away, they started building out the victim in the murderer.
Yeah.
We need there to be a victim in every case. It turns out the suspect wasn't a victim, didn't have health care through United Healthcare. And according to reports, he's hired a prominent attorney, comes from a wealthy family. I don't know what statement, if he's guilty of killing Brian Thompson, I don't know what statement he's making. Except for the,
things
anti-corporate.
Things aren't perfect.
Yeah, if there is a connection between his fascination with Ted Kaczynski and there's something there, I don't know. I can't tell you what drives somebody to murder somebody else. Because there's evidence that this murder was planned. If Mangione's guilty of doing this, then that's on him. This isn't on anybody else. This wasn't an act of self-defense. You can't equate anything in this case from the other side, from the case of from the perspective of the CEO, the former CEO, who's been murdered, and they need you to believe he committed what they say is an act of violence, or his company did. What in the hell is wrong with you? Have we gotten so jaded? Is the left so jaded when it comes to not caring for life that this is where it leads? They worked really hard in justifying the murder of an innocent man. And I don't know, I just don't know how that kind of mind works. I really don't.
And the reason, the justification is because a private sector company is not a charity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about it many times. When people talk about Medicare for all, we're like, we don't do Medicare for some.
Right.
You've still got to pay a ton, otherwise you don't get everything covered for.
Right.
There's anything that covers everything. You can get it from the government. It doesn't matter where you get it from.
Right.
People believe there's this ultimate coverage that exists, and that's why I brought the latest report just out last week on the Canadian healthcare system. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. And so the narrative is, well, if things aren't perfect, if every problem isn't solved, well, we understand why somebody commits murder.
Yeah.
People are out of their freaking minds.
Yeah, I just don't get it. It's morbid. It really is sick.
And that's what gets you the MSNBC cut that we played earlier this hour.
Yeah.
Where Stephanie Ruhle was trying to make a moral equivalency between J.D. Vance inviting Daniel Penny to the Army-Navy game and the left, mostly on the left, propping up Luigi Mangione, who is allegedly the suspect in killing in cold blood, shooting somebody in the back.
Right.
That both sides are celebrating violence, and Why are we doing this? Trying to make a moral equivalency between the two, which is insane.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's a different mindset. But it's not one person saying it. How many on the left have been doing this and in the media have been doing this now since the killing of Brian Thompson? And AOC the other day. Well, denying a claim by an insurance company could be seen, some may interpret that as an act of violence. Then where's the line?
Yeah.
Where's the line? Because our society doesn't accept that.
Yep. By the way, you see that Comer, Fox News story had that he was, really endorsing her. And if you actually read what he said, you could hear the sarcasm.
Right.
They had the clickbait, basically, I call it, Fox News did in their headline. Oh, he endorses AOC.
Yeah, right.
It's like, well, if that's an endorsement, I wouldn't want his endorsement.
Yeah, exactly. That's not much.
But it was basically, look, Raskin was nuts. Can she be any worse? I mean,
Right.
It wasn't
Yeah.
like, this is somebody who I can sit and talk to about. No, it's like they're all nuts.
Right.
And if I'm him, I'm like, yeah, I want her too, because the American public will look at it and take my side every time.
Yeah,
They'll go,
exactly.
this woman's nuts.
Exactly.
I like that there was a part of the article that said, that this jury's still out whether, his endorsement will help her or hurt
Yeah,
her.
right.
It wasn't really an endorsement.
No,
but
no.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
86690 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Oh, wow. The confidential sources, January 6th, that report coming out the other day. It's like, wow. Stephen A. Smith even commented on it. We'll have more on that. The whole Caitlin Clark controversy over the weekend. Well, actually, it's about 3-4 days old. It started when we were here. But she's athlete of the year, whatever, and she talked about her privilege. Did you see her trying to clarify it? I think it was yesterday, the day before.
Yeah.
Well, no. I earned everything myself. No. You said you had white privilege. If you have white privilege, she doesn't understand the game she's playing yet.
Right.
Yeah.
It can't be both.
Yeah, it can't be both. We'll get to that coming up because it's it has its funny moments.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I find it interesting and sort of amusing when somebody decides to enter the arena of ideas, maybe not knowingly doing so.
Yeah.
But the entire Caitlin Clark debacle that happened over the last few days that we never got a chance to talk about, and then she sort of doubled down, but then backtracked. What she has to understand is you cannot say, I understand my white privilege, and at the same time state that you've earned everything, though. That's the entire point of white privilege. You don't earn everything.
Right.
And so this is where she was, athlete of the year. Was it Sports Illustrated made her? I think she said, whatever. Was it Sports Illustrated who did it? Whatever. One of the she said, I want to say, speaking with Time Magazine, yeah, because it was Time Magazine. Oh, was it Time? Okay. She denounced her white privilege, said the WNBA was built by black players who came before her. I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league have been really good, have been black players. This league has been kind of built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made the league incredible, I think that's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. I have heard already that wasn't taken well by some of the black players, that she needs to be there to elevate black women.
Right.
Clark was asked after these statements was asked by NBC Sports host Maria Taylor about the criticism she's received about her Time comments from figures like Megyn Kelly, who slammed Clark on X for getting on a knee, all but apologizing for being white and getting attention, while reiterating that she believes she earned every single thing that's happened to her over the course of her career. Clark quickly followed up by espousing her racial awareness and declaring her truth.
Okay.
I know what this league is about. It's only been around about 25 plus years, so I know there's been so many amazing black women that have been in this league, and continue to uplift them is very important and something I'm very aware of. I just try to be real and authentic and share my truth. And I think that's very easy for me. But do you think she understood the door she was walking through?
No.
Neither do I.
No, I don't think she understands you can't have it both ways. What she's trying to do clearly is appease everyone.
Yep.
And we've seen this before. And the fact of the matter is you're not going to appease everyone. Whatever position you take, even if you try and take a position that you think is in the middle, that everyone will love, you're going to get flack for it. There's no way you won't. You can't appease everyone. And, it gets back to the old sports interview. What did you think about blah, 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 blah? They asked somebody, an athlete, about something outside the game. Well, I just try and focus on the game, and I just try to shut up and, be a team player and just try to, blah, 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 blah. Boring. You can't do that anymore. So the moment, there was any spotlight on her, it was bound to get to this point.
Yeah, we knew it was going to get, the a lot of hate on the left coming towards her, and of course she heard it.
Mm-hmm.
It was conservatives that, defended her. Mm-hmm. Look, we were joking the other day, talking to a couple of people about it, and I said, well, could you imagine if Tiger Woods would have come out and said, look, I know I've earned stuff, but I need to talk about the great white players who came before me that really formed this league, like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I do understand players that want to look back at history and say there was a lot of people that came before that, that helped build the house. That's fine. It's when you get into the racial specifics.
Right.
That's the problem with, with it. Tiger Woods was responsible for Tiger Woods' success.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look, Arnold Palmer brought in. Arnold Palmer was the guy that really made it a big league. He's the guy that came in. Television came in at that time. I will say Arnold Palmer and television, the televising of golf.
Yeah.
And then the Jack Nicklaus, and look, there are a ton of other golfers there, but Nicklaus and Palmer, were above it. But when Tiger Woods came in, he was going to get the publicity whether Phil Mickelson existed or not.
Yeah,
he was going to get it. He was that good,
right?
And he deserves everything that he has earned, just like Caitlin Clark does.
Right.
And her big mistake is believing she's only 22 years old. Maybe she'll learn, maybe she won't. But her big mistake was believing you can compromise with the left.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then to double down and say, well, no. We need to raise. Oh, so you was a white. I can just see the left. We understand how the left thinks. Oh, so now you're saying that you've earned everything. You realize you have white privilege, and part of your white privilege is to elevate me?
Yeah. Right.
What? It's just... And I saw this. I'm like, oh, my God, she doesn't know where... I'm not angry like everybody. She's a 22-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I know a lot of conservatives screaming and yelling. I thought... Megyn Kelly's blood pressure was going to blow through. And I understand because you sit there and you see somebody who didn't have to do that, but she's 22. But the hard lesson to learn is you cannot negotiate with the left. And you cannot say, well, I understand my white privilege. Your white privilege has to do with what? What did your white privilege have to do? Whatever that means. She never explained it. What did your truth of white privilege have to do with your success when you just said you've earned every single thing?
You can't have both.
Can't have both.
And so it, that makes it clear to me. It's, again, trying to appease everybody in the situation. And
yes,
that's what it indicates.
And whether you like it or not, there was a golf audience that existed. Tiger Woods and Tiger Woods solely is responsible for those television numbers going through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And now we bring in Tiger Woods. The left's response will be, well, was he really black? There's always an out, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Tiger Woods is responsible. The reason the WNBA last year had record ratings, because you saw the one coach, what was it, the Mystics or whatever, came out and said, no, it should have been the entire WNBA should be the athlete of the year.
Right.
They hate her. They hate Caitlin Clark. Well,
Yeah,
that's what she's got to realize. You can't compromise. No. The WNBA saw the success that they saw last year because of Caitlin Clark. Yeah. Sorry, individual personalities in sports can drive the ratings and the money to a league.
Yeah. Happens all the time.
And again, it's a team sport. You might say, well, it's a team sport. Doesn't matter. Look at right now. Look, I didn't see any of the game. I did see some of the high. There were so many points scored in the Bills game against the Lions that I didn't have time. When you came in, I was checking out the highlights because I was asleep.
Right.
And it's like, my God, I've never seen the highlights. Highlights are normally like 12, 13 minutes. They have the highlights.
Right. Yeah.
The NFL, this thing's over 20. That's how many. It was like 48-42 was the final score. Uh-huh. And, the talk is, who should be the MVP? Who should be, should Lamar, should Allen, who should get it this year? The MVP. Just I'm a Bills fan. I don't care. Get a damn Super Bowl.
Exactly.
I don't care about the MVP. It means nothing. It's a damn team sport. Now I'm sounding like I had to throw a couple of curse words in because I wanted to, not major curse words, because I wanted to sound like Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
I wanted to scream like that, like the sports people do. But I mean, I just shake my head because people care about I could care less about individual awards. It's a team sport. Win the championship. That's all that matters. Win the championship. But the people get obsessed about they get obsessed about watching individuals, and a lot of people probably have watched. You think about it, the NFL over the last couple of years, whether it's Lamar, whether it's Allen, whether whoever, the 4 or 5 Mahomes, the 4 or 5 great quarterbacks in the NFL, they're a draw.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks are a draw. They just are. It's the way that people react to it.
Right.
The WNBA success, which, again, is not a profitable success, and that was brought up. Did you see Scott Jennings? Oh, he was on with the Washington Post reporter who was so arrogant. He goes, what are you talking about? Even with her, they still lost. What did they lose? I don't know, $40 million? Because they still can't make a profit. So what's success? The success of having a place for women to play. Well, women could play anywhere.
Right.
It doesn't have to be losing $40 million. But, I mean, all of it is just, what's the key to success? Is it the business model? What is it? But yes, you could say it's success by taking anemic television ratings and going through the roof with them for the WNBA. Some of the numbers she had for some of the games, but she did it. Sorry, it's Caitlin Clark. Yep. And none of it has to do with white privilege. No. And the fact that she lied about that, because in my opinion, that's what she did. Because when she said she's trying to play, in fact, I think you may get some of the liberals in the WNBA, because I sensed this yesterday, to say, wait a minute, you're using your white privilege to say you're above us and it's up to you to raise us up because you just said white privilege, that it's your truth, that you have your white privilege, and it helped so much, but it didn't help anything of your success in the WNBA or college.
Right.
You can't have it both ways. And that's where she's being foolish. She doesn't understand the Pandora's box that she's opening here.
Well, again, trying to appease everyone. And you won't ever appease those who are hell-bent on, making this about your identity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
And she was trying to apologize for her success with white privilege and not apologize at the same time.
Right. That's going nowhere. In fact, you're digging a hole.
Oh, yeah. You're
only
boom, boom.
And, you're going to be making corrections and other statements, and it's only going to make that worse. There is no win here. The only answer is, look, I'm just focused on the game. I get in there and I try and work as hard as I can. I got some great teammates.
Well, the great stuff.
It's an honor to work. To work to play right beside them every day. Blah blah blah.
Couple of great stories of how the NBA's numbers are really down TV wise.
Yeah. Well,
I don't need your truth or your morality lesson.
No.
I just want to watch. If I want to watch sports, I want to watch sports.
Yep.
But. That's where but that's where you're going to see some of the last bastions of the radical leftist racial narrative in the WNBA.
Right,
you really are, and probably the NBA also. That's where the far left still has a huge hold. But again, I guess we'll see, but if you see why the NFL right now is such a success and the numbers are going up, it's because politics now has nothing to do with it anymore.
Right.
For the average person.
Nope.
It's about the teams. It's about the top echelon of football in the world, and it's about the football teams who win and the quarterbacks who take them there. It's what it's really about.
It's what it's always been about.
And the quarterbacks are going to get the vast majority of the accolades out there, and you're going to hear the individual. And because you think about it, who's the most valuable player when you got 11 players on the field?
Right.
Everybody has to be there. If you're an MVP, I saw Josh Allen say, he goes, well, if I get it, it's because we're close to winning the Super Bowl. That's all I care about.
Right.
But, yeah, your offensive line, if your offensive line stinks, if you got terrible receivers, you got to have the entire team. But we're focused on it. But Caitlin Clark is just one of those players. You know, Mahomes has been one of those players. Josh Allen's been one of those players. And so you've got, you know, people focusing on that. That's just the reality. And Caitlin Clark, you saw her, you know, play in college last year and then, you know, go on to the pros. I go back to Pete Maravich. She's like a Pete Maravich. That kind of excitement. You're like, never, but television didn't exist the way that it did to cover a Pete Maravich the way that it does today.
Right.
To cover a Caitlin Clark.
Right.
Yeah, she's a generational talent. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You mentioned earlier in the show how when you heard Kirby talking the other day, it was like blah, 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 blah. That was the feeling when I was going through the Sunday morning news shows yesterday, and I came upon Romney, and I just went, just go. Just go.
Yeah, just get out.
Go.
Get out. I mean,
I don't care what you have to say. Well, the end of a long and I don't care. Go.
Yeah.
I know what you're about.
Yeah, we already get it.
Yeah,
we get it. We're done with you.
You gave your goodbye on the Senate floor.
Right.
But it's like just
good luck at MSNBC or wherever you land. I don't know if MSNBC is going to AI technology, but if they do, there is a robot. And his name is Mitt Romney, and he's available. So.
Santa never misses a show with the Red Eye Radio app. Download your very own in the App Store.
I pictured Santa, like a picture of Santa, with or his, smartphone and phone and Red Eye Radio. I just made me laugh. So,
yeah, he probably listens. I'm guessing, he wants to stay informed. So, yeah, I'm guessing he listens.
I may have to watch the Mel Gibson one again. I only watched it once a couple of years ago. What was that called again?
Fat Man.
Fat Man, yeah.
Yeah.
What a weird movie that was.
But it was a different take on the whole thing, for sure.
Because I could imagine Mel Gibson listening as Fat Man, because...
Oh, Mel Gibson as Fat Man would listen, no doubt. He'd probably call in. He'd probably be a regular caller. Yeah. I'm guessing the big man listens.
In other news, President-elect Donald Trump is reportedly considering privatizing the United States Postal Service, according to a report from the Washington Post. 3 people with knowledge of the matter told the outlet that Trump has been talking with Howard Lutnick, who Trump picked to serve as the Commerce Secretary, about carrying out an overhaul of the U.S. Postal Service. While Trump's plans regarding how he plans to overhaul the Postal Service were not immediately clear, one of the sources told the outlet that Trump had met with a group of transition officials and had requested their input on privatizing the agency. Trump, as Breitbart News reported, Trump has previously criticized the U.S. Postal Service as a joke. Trump suggested that the Postal Service raise the price of their packages by approximately 4 times to help them get out of the debt. A task force that Trump created during his first term as president suggested that the U.S. Postal Service should think about increasing the prices for shipping certain packages, according to Axios. The government is slow, decades slow on adapting new ways of doing things. Why are they slow? Anybody? Bueller? Anyone? They're a monopoly. They're not forced to change. This isn't rocket science. The government is slow, decades slow in adapting adopting new ways of doing things. And there's a lot of other carrier services that became legal in the 70s that are now doing things so much better with increased volumes and reduced costs. Casey Mulligan, who served as chief economist for the Council of Economic Advisors during Trump's first term, told the Post, "We didn't finish the job in the first term, but we should finish it now." What does a privatized post office look like?
Well, I think of when Jeff Bezos went in and started buying massive cargo planes. He was really building his own proprietary supply chain, a lot like what Sam Walton did with Walmart. And the idea is, if you streamline the supply chain and have greater control of it, you can control costs and be more competitive. There really hasn't been an interest in doing that with the USPS for the reasons you just pointed out. That they don't have to. To be in existence, they don't have to be more competitive. To stay in existence in the private sector, you have to remain competitive, and it requires you to invest a great deal of money on that delivery infrastructure. That's what Amazon did to compete with Walmart. How can I outdo Walmart? Now Walmart finds himself in the e-commerce world playing catch up with Amazon and everybody else. COVID kind of hyper extended that, shoved everybody into that delivery mode when it came to retail. And now everyone expects things to arrive at the door. They don't need to, stand in line for something or go somewhere to a store to get it if they can get it delivered the same day or next day. If you take USPS and you were to privatize it, then, first of all, you privatize it, there would have to be some interest by investors. And that interest would be driven by, of course, do I see a potential here for greater profits? And what would those greater profits require? Well, again, it would be massive investments. Amazon also rolled out, their fleet of trucks, big rigs, and then vans to contractors. It's a lot like what FedEx was doing on delivery. You have your logo on the side of the van, but that's not owned by Amazon. That's a contractor for Amazon, on the local level. And so you roll out basically that delivery infrastructure that's built on kind of a hybrid of what Walmart was doing on the retail level and what FedEx was doing on the delivery level. And I don't know what would attract investors. So you want to privatize it. Who would want to buy the USPS and why? And then where do you go? Because you got to create efficiencies, and you've got pensions that you have to look at. How do you square that away?
The debt?
The debt that has to be taken on. But also that forward investment, it would be a massive investment of, again, items for that delivery infrastructure, whether it's warehouses or, they have the post offices, but that wouldn't be enough. In terms of packages, they're going to have to be much larger facilities and likely more of them if you wanted to really compete. But then again, you look at that and say, okay, we're talking again still delivery. Well, UPS is still doing well. UPS does a good job. They have a pretty, in terms of the business model, it's a built business model. When you look at the Fred Smith situation over at FedEx, and it started to erode things that were going on, there were regulations and everything else. And then it became more of a, again, all right, if you look at Bezos, it's not only do they sell things, they make things. They have the Amazon Basics label, the private labeling thing that they do with pretty much anything you want. They, from start to finish, deliver retail items on every level. That's hard to compete with. If you only want to deliver, if it's only about delivery, then you've got to be, I don't know what kind of competitive mode you have to get in, because you're going to have to take them all on. UPS is the biggest if it's delivery only.
Well, when the question you have to ask, because they're always talking about their 10-year plan. Well, then you take a 10-year plan, you look at 2034. Well, 2035, because we're almost there. And you ask yourself, why does the post office exist? They exist really because of first-class mail, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's their primary role.
That's why.
Yep.
That's why they exist, and
right.
it goes to every single address, in the nation
mm-hmm.
is in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're not making money delivering first-class mail.
Nope.
But they do offer that service that I believe no other service is allowed to do, right?
Right. You can deliver.
I could send
an
it back.
envelope, but
I could deliver an envelope.
Another
right,
way,
exactly.
but
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you look at it, you have to ask the question first, why do they exist? And if you make them a private enterprise, well, then they have to compete with everybody else. I would see them be absorbed by, FedEx,
UPS. UPS is probably
Amazon.
Maybe.
You can't.
Right.
Well, you can't. There's Amazon
no
Mail.
Yeah.
Imagine
right.
Amazon Mail.
Yeah.
I asked the question, is there any reason that I think about myself? Now, my father still does everything is a check. Everything is mailed.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I only have one bill that I actually mail.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I only have one or two utilities. My electric, I don't even think not my broadband, no. My electric, my gas, and my water bill. I still get those envelopes in the mail.
Mm.
The rest is all email.
Mm-hmm.
I get nothing anywhere else. And so you look at, now there's a 30-year difference between me and my father, but, my father's will be 99 in April. But that generation is going away.
Mm-hmm.
And the generation beneath that, our generation, or if you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, you've been immersed into the smartphone culture, email. You moved away from it.
Mm-hmm.
So in 10 years, if you privatize it, they'll still be gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You to privatize it, you have to attract investors. What investors would be attracted?
Right. And then, as you mentioned, all the union stuff goes away.
Right. You got pensions to deal with, debt and everything else, and all of that. It's
pensions that haven't been funded really since, 2010?
Right.
What do you do? You're not going to get a private investor to come in and say, how much do I have? What's the debt and what do I have to put in?
The legacy costs alone.
Yeah.
Just the debt and the legacy costs alone on that. Not a chance.
I remember a couple of years ago, the Democrats were talking, well, maybe we can make them a bank.
No.
A government bank?
Yeah, no. No. Not going to happen.
Mini Fed.
Yeah, no. No, it's, you're just at that point where still today, first-class mail is necessary. There's the necessary role, even though it's diminished. It means that not as many people are paying for it. I mean, every time you log on to an app or your account, go paperless, go paperless. Hey, go paperless.
Yeah,
hey, did you try paperless? Hey, what are you doing with paper? Why are you still dealing with paper? I mean, it's over and over again.
95% plus that I get is junk mail.
Right. And to usher that out and say, well, since it's not serving the majority of people, we'll just do away with it. I mean, I can't see that happening in my lifetime. It's still going to be deemed necessary on Capitol Hill, even though it's a loser all day long.
Yeah.
There's no way to turn that around. No way to turn that around.
It will someday.
It will beyond our lifetime. I believe it will.
I see there'll be more. There'll be more pressure on it. But here's the point. If they want to do all these cuts, I saw, for example, that. Did you see I saw yesterday was or over the weekend, Pete Sessions, congressman.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not going to vote for this budget because there's not money for farmers.
Right.
I went, well, there you go, right there. That's why they're not going to be able to cut.
Yep.
Everybody wants to cut something else except
exactly
what they want.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the top of the hour, more on that report that Trump is looking to privatize the post office. And really, when you look at that, I mean, it sounds easy, but the devil really is in the details. Some of which you just brought up. Who would take them over? But when you look at it, for example, I believe it was in October of 2021, the Postal Service increased the time in transit standards by 1 or 2 days. That's traveling longer distances that they increased.
Yeah.
While everybody else is trying to get the package there quicker, the post office is moving in the opposite direction.
Right.
Well, of course, that's a problem.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.